Welcome, beautiful people, back to the United View YouTube channel. We are here with episode 60 of What the Devil, a collaboration between United View and United District. I'm Dylan. I'm joined today by Yusuf once again, and also a big welcome back to Firms. It's great to have you back on the show. Right, last time we filmed this was before the second leg of the Lyon game, and what ensued was the craziest game of football I've watched in my entire life. I checked my heart rate right after that game, and it was like down at maybe 55 after the Lyon second, and I was like, right, this is over. And it hit a peak, I think it was about 155 or something insane like that during the last few goals.
I scraped my leg celebrating.
Yeah, but I think we're all injured.
You done a carpet
I
slide.
was actually.
No, I was on the ground.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you were there. Mate, that must have been one of just the best moments of your life, surely.
No, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah. Because you obviously stayed then. Obviously a lot of people left the ground, but you stayed. Did you believe?
Do you know what? I thought the guy in front of me, I've got to give him credit. He was really optimistic, and I was like, you know what, it's United, anything can happen. And then the moment we got a penalty, I was like, right, we're coming back in some way. Whether it's we win on penalties, I thought it was more likely penalties, to be honest, but I was like, we're going to come back in some way, because I was like, one goal and it changes.
You know what, when we got given that pen, I did not move. So obviously we got the pen, I was sat there, watched it, we got given the pen, no change in facial expression. Bruno steps up, scores, nothing, because I refused to get excited, to get happy. I was going, no, there's no way. And then you just had Rio and Robbie. So it was Robbie, Savage and Rio Ferdinand on the comms. So obviously they were really getting excited, and I was like, okay, I can't. I started a little bit. I was like, and then Maney scored, and I'm just
Maney's goal
mental
was just
stunning, isn't it?
Top tier.
It was such a stunning goal, considering the circumstance. Normally, all those goals are scrappy. They're just lumping the balls. Maney said after the game, he was like, every yard is like a mile in the area. He's a good player, man.
Do you know things I noticed about that game is, one, it just reminds you having those guys back from injury like Maney.
It means so much.
We missed him. You know what I mean? We missed him. We just get reminded about his quality. You see guys like Casemiro that run his socks off in that game, used experience to win that penalty. This was 120 plus minutes or something like that.
With extra time, probably around 130.
He's in the opposition's box, winning the penalty. He's a guy that gets talked about that has no legs. He's old and he's past it. There was guys gasping on the pitch that day.
Yeah.
Casemiro was running his socks off. You saw what it meant to him when we scored that winner with Maguire got that header, and he that clip that went around where he's on his knees and literally collapsed to the ground. This is the guy that's got 4 or 5 Champions Leagues. What that meant to him meant everything. Yeah. And you can't replicate that atmosphere at any other club. This is Manchester United. We win a game like no other team. And I saw a stat, where someone was talking about it, the Champions League game that Arsenal done, where they beat Real Madrid, in, I think it was a couple of weeks or so, they had X number of views on BT Sport or TNT, whatever you call it. Manchester United, within 12 hours, surpassed their views for winning a Europa League game against Milan. And it just highlights
massive, mate.
how big Manchester United
on the customer point as well, can I just say, I feel like ever since he's come, there's been a group of people that have positioned it as he's got a kind of mercenary that, wanted a big payday at the end of his career. I don't think could be further from the truth. I think it couldn't be further from the truth. I feel like him and Varane, they came here, they wanted to be here.
Yes.
And every single action along the way has shown that they wanted to be here.
Yeah, I agree. I really think Casemiro wants this Europa League trophy, because it's one he's not won.
Yes.
I know it's a second-rate thing, but he's got the FA Cup now.
Well.
He's got,
He wants it for us as well.
Yeah. He wants it for us, but he's in the Europa League, he's a man on a mission. But you mentioned just before about how important it is to have players like Codmania, etc., coming back now. So obviously they've been injured, and I think a large part of the reason we've been so dire at points in the last few months is because we've missed so many key players. We've missed Martinez, we've missed Mainoo, we've missed Ahmad. It means that our key players are running themselves to the ground, so they are worse because they can't stay fresh and fit, because they're playing twice a week, every single minute, like Delap and stuff. And also we've obviously missed these key players, but there's also the point of we are looking to add to us in the summer. I'm optimistic, and I think the United could end up getting 6 players in or something. Not necessarily 6 starting 11 players.
Okay.
But 6 first team signings. I really think, because we're getting rid of so many players. We've got 2 or 3 defenders leaving, midfielders leaving. We need new forwards. And also plus the academy players. I think there's going to be half our squad. I think it's going to be new.
we already got two. We linked to about two academy players. Well, two youth anyway. Vivell's on doing his magic and working his stuff.
Yeah. But the big question at the moment, right, and what everyone wants to see is a new striker come in. And there's been a lot of debate about who that should be. So the reports from in the last number of weeks, right, we've been linked to more than anyone, Osimhen and Delap. But David Ornstein came out yesterday and pretty much said, Osimhen is not on the agenda at United. He's not someone we're considering. But we do love Liam Delap. Liam Delap is like our number one right now, who we like the first striker we want to get in. And so it pretty much seems like United have looked at Osimhen, looked at Delap, and gone Delap, and that's caused a fair amount of how to put it diplomatically, debate. It's a fair amount of debate. Obviously, so a lot of people are very against the Delap signing because of Rasmus Hojlund. They're thinking, look at what happened to Hojlund. It's just going to happen once again. And I think personally that isn't a fair view of Liam Delap, because Hojlund came in with 0 minutes under his belt of English experience. Delap is closing in on 7,000 minutes of English football, which I think counts for something. He's already scored more Premier League goals in this one season he's been there than Hojlund, I think, has. Surely, I don't know how many Premier League goals Hojlund has, but it's about 12, 13.
I think Hojlund's got 13 Premier League goals total.
And Delap's got 12 this season.
Yeah.
I think, so to put where I stand on this, Osimhen would be, in an ideal world, my number one choice for this summer, like kind of without context of all the added stuff around it, like the fees and the wages and how much money we have and stuff like that. He would be, and I've said that before, and it would be amazing if we signed him because he's an incredible striker. We'd score goals with him, but I understand where United are going with this Delap signing, because I'm pretty confident. I say pretty confident. I have a feeling that Delap won't end up being our only striker signing this summer. I just think that he's the type of signing we want, so we're focusing on him right now to get him, because if we try to do it later, he'll be gone. I think the same with Cunha. Like, Cunha is definitely leaving Wolves this summer. Delap is definitely leaving Ipswich this summer. We aren't the only people interested in these signings.
Yeah.
So if we are looking to get these deals done ASAP, literally like first week of the window, get them out of the way, then we can relax because we have them, and then we can go and focus on other targets. Because also right now we don't know where we're playing next season. Champions League, do we have any? Do we have European football? Because Champions League is an extra 85 million quid, 2 games a week, and everything. So we'll need to sign more players in order to play the 2 games a week. If we don't have Champions League football, we're basically playing once a week. Premier League plus a couple of FA Cup games here and there. So we also don't need as big a squad. So I think purely what's happening is, although not getting Osimhen is disappointing because he would guarantee us a level up in striker, I think what's happening is we're looking to get Delap now so that we don't lose him later in the window, and then we're going to focus potentially on signing another attacker aside from Delap and Cunha later on in the window. And I just think people aren't really thinking about that when they should be.
You could potentially have a point. I think whatever views you have on it, I think Manchester United definitely are taking a stance of acting fast. They've been burnt with Quenda. They don't want a similar scenario game happening this time around. So I think, we've heard of the interest from Newcastle, from Arsenal, expressed interest in Cunha, and various other teams out. Nottingham Forest, I believe, was after him. Now you're looking at Delap as well. He's got a few teams, including Newcastle, that has come out that they're interested in him. So Manchester United don't want to be in a position with egg on their face. So I fully back them going after their targets and getting them done straight away. So I agree with that. My issue is it enough? Where do we want to be next season? What is marked improvement for Manchester United? What makes us as a fan base happy to say, okay, they can see signs of progressing, looking at the table? And would Delap and Cunha be those 2 signings that get us?
But this is what I'm saying, is that they aren't going to be our only 2 signings. They're the 2 priority signings, but I think that's because, in context, they're also the 2 most in-demand players that we want. So we're going for them now rather than later, because if we don't go for them now, we never get them.
Okay, so Ornstein's ruled out Osimhen, right?
Yeah.
he's ruled him out. So the other established striker that we all know about that's out there is obviously Gyökeres, which seems behind the scenes that Arsenal's making great headway with that signing. So say he's out of the picture, Osimhen's out of the picture. Who are we looking at that we know of that we can bring in that's getting us that 20 goals or whatever it is a season in a league that we're going to be happy with or comfortable with? Because it just feels like strikers are, obviously it's a lot of money and it's a risk. Every signing's a risk, but we wanted someone that can at least show that bit of pedigree. And who are we going to be looking at outside of Osimhen and Gyökeres?
But let's say we bring in someone like Delap, who's already shown himself to be able to score, someone who can score 10 to 15 goals in a league season. Right? He's done that literally this season with a pretty poor Ipswich Town side.
Yeah.
Maybe he can do that again with us, with Cunha and Ahmad back and like the creative players that we have. He could potentially hit 10, 15 goals again. And then you can maybe bring in a second striker, someone like we've talked just before we went on air about someone like Danny Welbeck or Chris Wood, or someone like Patrick Schick from Leverkusen, 29 years old, proven he can score 10, 15 goals at least in a season. You're then getting two strikers who can then hit those numbers, plus Cunha will score goals, I hope, obviously on touchwood, assuming he signs. Bruno Fernandes can score goals, Ahmad can score goals. I think what we're going for is a more even spread of goals. We might not have one player who hits 25 goals, but if we have 4 players who hit 10 to 15 each, that's just as valuable. But I am going to let Yusuf have a little say now, because I know you are very against this decision United have made.
Personally, I was actually watching the game on Sunday against Wolves. I actually sat thinking, I was like, honestly, if we see Mainu as a 10, we're wasting money on Cunha. Like, completely. I personally don't want him anyways. I don't think he's the right signing for us. No disrespect to play. He's a good player. I just don't think he's right for us. But I personally think if you want Mainu to be a 10, Cunha is completely pointless. I actually don't get the point, because that role Cunha will want to play in the 10 role, Mainu can play that. I think Mainu will become a better player, because I think also Mainu's a bit more kind of versatile. The thing I've said all along, I don't want niche players at Man United. I think Cunha is a very niche player. He thrives in a very specific role, and I think he's good at being a team's kind of main man. I don't think he would, I think we'd hit a ceiling with Cunha in this team very fast. In terms of Delap, I think Delap's a very good player. I just think, okay, will we get... Then if we get a second striker, and that means Hojlund goes. I truly believe if we were to sell Rasmus Hojlund, we would be losing out on a lot, because right now a lot of work to be done, but I believe with some coaching, I believe he can genuinely become a top footballer. I think he can become a better footballer than Delap long term. And I just think, is that meme of mining and then you turn around right before you find the diamonds. I feel like that's it with Hojlund. I feel like that's what selling Rasmus Hojlund would be, honestly.
And the way you do that is by...
Coach him. He needs good coaching, and we've all spoke, we can talk about Ruben Amorim needs a pre-season and stuff to get his ideas across to players, but then do the players need a pre-season to make improvements? It can be hard to do that within the season, so a pre-season with Ruben Amorim coaching him, some time off as well to recharge, all of that, you could come back and see a very different Rasmus Hojlund. But look, I'm not saying he's been good enough, because he's not been, but I truly believe he's a fantastic player in there, and I think that we would be making a mistake by getting rid. But again, more than anything, I don't know if we would get a second striker, and I don't want then Delap to basically be thrown in the deep end, and then it becomes another situation. I think he'd be good, but it just wouldn't be enough, and then people turn on him after a year or two and be like, oh, we need a striker again, and I'm like, well, here we are, again, where we've signed a young striker who needs time to develop, and we're not giving him time to develop.
That's my worry.
I'm quite confident in saying that I don't think if we were to get Delap and he was still to be the only out and out number 9 striker that we're signing this summer, I'm pretty confident that I don't think the same thing will happen.
I don't think it'll happen to the same extent, but I still think there would be a struggle.
I think it will.
It
always does.
But the thing is, it's always happened when the scenario, we are in a completely new scenario now at the club as a whole, as we were when we signed Rasmus Hojlund, right? When we signed Rasmus Hojlund, the entire board was different. We had a different manager, different this, different that, and different everything. I trust the people at United now 10 times more than I did the previous like recruitment team and everything. I like Vivel. I really like Wilcox. I really like what Barada's done. Like, so last summer, I'd say bar Ugarte, most of our signings are good ones. Maswari's been incredible. Delap I really like. Xerxes, I personally really like as a footballer, and I think there is a lot there that we can get off Xerxes.
I think like Xerxes is another one. If Xerxes a 10, then like if you've got Xerxes and Mainu as 10s already, then again, what's the point of Cunha?
Because I reckon that part of the reason signing Cunha is because Bruno Fernandes long term isn't going to play there. So if we in those 10 positions, we have Cunha, Mainu, Ahmad, Xerxes, and then I have no idea what the future of Garnacho holds. But I think Cunha is the best player we can possibly get right now suited to that left 10 role, better than anyone else. Ahmad's on the right 10. I see Cunha as a huge upgrade on what we currently have.
Can I also throw out interesting? I read this the other day. Not sure exactly how accurate, but Real Madrid's move for Franco Stantuano, don't forget his name, it's right from River Plate, has gone through, fallen through, and Manchester United are interested in picking him up.
Yeah, so we've been linked to him since beginning of the January window. We can sign him from mid-August because he shares the same birthday as me, August 14th. Yeah. But so basically, we can't sign him until he turns 18, which is on August 14th, so we can't get a deal for him through. Well, we can probably get some pre-agreement like we have with Diego Leon, for example, but that's something that I don't think will pop up until the summer, later in the summer. Because this is what I mean. I really think that a lot of what people are worrying about now in terms of Delap's going to be our only striker signing and he's 21. Cunha's our big money signing and we're not going to get anyone else. I think it's purely a case of because they're so in demand, United have no choice but to go for these guys right now, and because we will be able to bring in other players, because we also need a midfielder. We do need another striker. We need possibly another right, like a right wing back or something. We might need another defender if multiple defenders leave. I think we will get these players, but I just think United know they're going to do that, and they can do that down the line. Because if we try and sign a midfielder now and try and sign a defender now, and then we go, right, okay, let's focus on our attacking signings, Delap's gone, Cunha's gone, we can't sign them anymore, they're gone, and so we'll never sign them. So I really do think that this is just a case of United going for these two now and going all out for these two now, then focusing on sales, raising between 100 and 150 million in sales, because it seems like that's what's going to happen, then going back to our other targets, which is why I still think we could sign another striker or another attacker that isn't a 21-year-old. Because Cunha's 25 and he's got, 250 games under his belt, right? 2.5 years of Premier League experience. I remember saying this to you before, and I know you disagree with me, but signing Delap and Cunha, you've got a young striker, yes, but you're bringing in an experienced forward, right, who can play behind this striker. He can play behind Hojlund, or he can play as a 9 himself. And obviously he's not an out-and-out 9, but he can. He's done it at Wolves. And so I do think that in terms of being worried about signing a striker who is, or not signing players who are experienced enough, I think Cunha does a lot to fill that role.
Look, I hear what you're saying. I just feel like with Manchester United, it's been a case of, it always feels like financially, it's always a financial hurdle with us getting like it's like not only a financial hurdle, but it always seems like there's some sort of barrier for us getting the number one, player, the striker, or whatever it is, the midfielder. And I know it's been suited that Delap is our number one choice, but I can't help but think, would he be our number one choice if we had 500 million to spend? Who would we be looking at? And my thing is obviously I understand that there's FFP financial restrictions, which is why we're looking at Delap. In my mind, it's just like we've got someone out there that's got 50 league goals. We've got another guy out there that's got, 30 in all comps maybe. And he was touted as being one of the best strikers on the planet at one stage. And then we're getting Delap. And not to say that, no disrespect to Delap, not to say that he won't work out. I think Delap's going to be a lot of shithousery. I think he's going to cause a lot of nuisance. He's going to get us off our seats. Him, Martinez, Cunha, they're going to make those rivalries again, because he knows how to. He was getting me angry when we were playing Ipswich. He was doing things to annoy us, and as Mazraoui or whatever, and I was like, oh, this guy. But when he plays for your team, you're going to love it. But it's just, and I do feel like we can increase his goal ratio, like his percentage. Like, what has he got, 14, did you say?
12.
12 goals?
12 league goals.
We can probably get that up by 50% easily.
That's then
do you know the
18
thing is,
league
right,
goals.
That's
the thing about the team, and this is something I feel I've been sitting on for a while. I feel like we as a team are more geared towards creating for wide players than we are for central strikers. And another thing is we create in the middle. We tend to create better for players who ghost into the box late than players who aggressively attack it. So we take the Ugarte goal against Lyon as an example. Now we've picked up the ball. Garnacho's got the ball on the right. Rasmus Hojlund's made an aggressive onto the 6-yard box. Does he look for it? No. He's gone behind him and Ugarte is ghosting in. You look at how Xerxes attacks the box. A lot of his goals come. He just kind of casually ghosts in. He's not. Hojlund's the only player we have who will really aggressively attack that 6-yard box. But one thing I notice a lot, okay, people say he makes the wrong runs or like he's got bad movement. His movement in some regards needs to improve. I think he needs to sometimes vary which post he goes to and add some double movements and things. But a lot of chances we create come because he's running to that 6-yard box and space opens up behind him and somebody attacks that space. Like Garnacho may peel off and go into that space, or someone from midfield will run forward into that space. We create a lot of chances by that. So with Delap, with the striker, it really depends. Will we create that many opportunities for the strikers? I don't think it's a movement thing necessarily. I think it's actually like how the team's mindsets are, and part of it is that the wingers are very much geared towards shooting. I think we've all seen clips of Hojlund getting annoyed at Garnacho. When I'm in the stadium, I see it quite a lot. So like quite a few, at least 3 times in the Lyon game, he got really angry at Garnacho.
He literally booted the post out of frustration.
He got really, really frustrated. Yeah. But then there was actually one moment in the Wolves game I noticed Hojlund started making a run. He saw it was Garnacho on the ball. He immediately stopped and he positioned himself, thinking, right, Garnacho's going to shoot. I'm just going to position myself for a rebound or something. So our wide players are geared towards shooting first, typically. And I feel like we're more used to creating for them. And I think that's partly because, you look at someone like Marcus Rashford, for years, he's kind of been our main source of goals. Like we try to get the ball wide to him, for example.
Do you think, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here for a sec. Do you think, though, that part of that, we're creating for wide players at the moment is specifically because of the profiles we have in those wide positions? So, for example, you mentioned the Ugarte goal. We have Garnacho, who's right-footed, playing on the right side. That it's a lot easier to play a cutback when you're someone like Garnacho in that position, rather than, let's say, when we played, when Dorgu was playing on the right as a left-footed player, he put in 2, I think, outstanding crosses against Wolves because we had the left-footed player on the right-hand side. We haven't had that for ages because we haven't had Ahmad, right? Yeah. And when Ahmad was playing, our striker was scoring. There's a point where Hojlund scored up 5 goals in 6 games. I do think that part of the reason we tend to be creating for the wider players is partly because it's something we've done historically, like with Rashford being our main goal scorer and stuff at times. And then previously there was players like Mason Greenwood was scoring from out wide on the right and everything. But I do think that is slightly to do with the fact that that's the only way we can play with the current players we have. We have wide players who are much better at creating. I wouldn't say Garnacho's a good creator. He creates chances, but I wouldn't say he's a good creator, right? Cunha is a good creator. He's still a goal scorer, but he's got 30 assists or something, I think, for Wolves. I can't remember what that was. But when I looked at he shows he can do both. Yeah. Ahmad shown he can do both. And Ahmad being left-footed, I think, will do a lot of good for a striker.
I think Garnacho creates a lot more on the right, but do you know with Garnacho, this is why I think we're agreeing in saying the different things with the profile. Like, it's part of the mindset as well. Garnacho's instinct is always to kind of shoot. So on the right, when he's on the right, he will naturally think to cut across a little bit more. But generally, his mindset is to shoot. He does want to get the goals for himself. Even Ahmad balances it much more. But even him, sometimes he'll look to shoot. And I don't mind it, but with Ahmad, because again, Ahmad balances it. But in general, we have had wide players who are focused on shooting, and sometimes what I personally think is a striker like Hojlund will make an aggressive run, and that's where you play a ball early. But because the winger will think, how can I score here? They'll delay the pass, and then that's when the option for the late pass opens up. So when they do pass, they're thinking about the late pass because they're like, right, the shot's not on. Now I've got a pass, but it's too late for the striker at that point. This is just something I've been observing and thinking about for quite a while now. But I've had a few chats with friends about this. But yeah, this is kind of the first time I've really publicly spoken about it. But I do think that's something
I do feel like
to consider as well.
I mean, those late sort of runs into those boxes where you said, we probably benefit from scoring our goals at certain times in that way. I think Cunha's potentially going to be that guy that benefits from that.
Yeah.
If Delap is not benefiting from that, I do feel like Cunha is one of those people that can appear late at the edge of the box.
Can I
and find
also
the net.
say as well,
Yeah.
in the Lyon game, I thought Hojlund actually made some really good runs and got ignored. Like,
Yeah.
He does.
He
but
does all the time.
I think Hojlund should get a little bit more credit than he does, but he also just
He hasn't been
frustrates
good
me
enough.
so
Yeah,
much.
He's
been
frustrating.
I think in the last couple games he has been. Do you know that one where he chopped past Fender? He should have played the pass. I understand why he went for the shot, but it was so frustrating to me because I'm like he's genuinely been playing better all round the last few games. In the Lyon game, I thought he linked up really well with
In
players.
the first Lyon game, I thought he was really poor, but
Yeah,
I think he
first
was
game
a
poor.
lot better in the second.
The second
leg.
one, I was in the ground. Even the guy sat next to me was saying, you know what? I think he's actually a really skillful player. I think he can be a really good player in the future. We just need someone more proven right now to kind of take the burden off him and let him develop a bit. But I think he linked up. And then the Wolves game again, I thought he linked up well. I think Kobbie Mainoo helped a lot too because Mainoo was really sharp to any kind of knockdowns or anything. I noticed that he was very alert to them. So Hojlund would knock the ball down. Mainoo straight away there. We created quite a few opportunities from that. Back to the Cunha experience point. I'm gonna throw a spanner in the works here. He's experienced, but is he a leader really? Because I know he's got quite a volatile character, and at points there's been a few bust-ups at Wolves and stuff. So whilst he has the experience, is he going to use that experience in the right way for our players and what they need?
I think I don't necessarily see Cunha being. So I've put on the. Actually, I just think I want to say quickly, just reading some of the comments. We are being accused of being Ineos plants right now. We've got a bunch of Ineos plants. Delap will struggle just like all the other strikers if the creativity isn't worked on. There's the quality issue. Nobody else, barring Chelsea, are linked with him.
So I'm an Ineos.
Delap's
Ineos
linked
fan
by
for saying what this guy's
half the
saying,
Premier
bro.
League, and also I think a lot of big teams
he's
across
not
Europe
doing his
all
research.
want him. Mark Mateo.
He's not doing his research.
But we also have a super chat from Super Arch saying, our fan base is weird. Patience for the wrong players. Hojlund 3 years, Xerxes 6 months, and people wanted him gone. Not to mention salary BW them.
3 years.
2 years. But Hojlund's obviously been there. I do think there is an overall correct point of I think people aren't willing to be patient. And I think that applies to United fans because we've seen so much more stuff for so many number of years. I think most of the signings we signed last summer, I think have turned out well. Ugarte is the one jury's massively out on him. But the reason I'm not against the overall point about the Delap and Osimhen thing, the reason I'm not overly against it is because I trust the decision makers we have up top. So if they have a plan, I'm willing to trust that plan.
I'm kind of
I like
more...
that.
Because on the pitch, they tend to, for the most part, prove themselves right.
And
Signings
do you know
like
what?
Yoro and stuff.
Getting them from the Premier League is a big plus. for me.
Huge plus.
I'm happy about that, and I do feel like these two players will increase the base level of our team. Whatever you think about Cunha and being a polished article or the complete, whatever he's lacking or whatever he's got, he is going to increase the base level of Manchester United. Is he coming to
improves us
Manchester United?
massively.
Is he going to
Hugely.
improve Manchester United? Yes or no? The answer is yes. Delap, is he going to improve Manchester United? Yes or no? The answer is yes. It is yes, because if we're trying to compare him to what we've got right about now and outputs in terms of goal scoring and anything like that, it's a clear answer.
You make a good point. I think what we don't have at the moment, I feel like people aren't really necessarily recognising this, is you talk about, so you've mentioned what's the point in signing Cunha when we have someone like Mainoo, right? One thing I think we haven't had is an abundance of talent.
The bench is terrible. Every time you look at that pitch, a few injuries strike. You look at the bench.
Yeah, man.
How many times have we looked at the bench and we wanted to throw up?
Can I also say though, actually, if we're looking at tens as well, Rayan Cherki at Old Trafford. Oh my!
Oh, bro, that guy is amazing.
No,
isn't he?
but like 20 minute discourse. Watching him in person was like I was just amazed.
He's a stunning player, man. I've been banging on about it for years.
He's a 10. He's a third of the price of Cunha, and a better player, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
but this is what I'm saying. But I don't think that Delap and Cunha are going to be our only attacking signings.
But I do feel like there's a particular profile
I just
that they're after.
I don't think they're going to be only. I just feel like Cunha's a very expensive player where we can get better deals for better players who don't cap our ceiling as much. I could be wrong. I just think Cunha caps our ceiling quite a lot, even if he improves the floor right now.
But do you not think he raises our ceiling?
I don't
Like,
think so.
for example,
I think he
if we
caps it.
sign Cunha, and then we also sign other players who help beef up the squad, do the starting 11. Is it not overall
We-
a good thing
But
that
then,
signing
but then
a
I
Premier
think
League proven player?
Cunha becomes, if you have that, then your best team, it doesn't involve Cunha.
See, my thing is I think like the rebuild is coming in phases. I feel like we do need phases. I don't feel like Manchester United should just be looking at these guys like youth that are like 20 years old or whatever it is, with huge potential ceilings.
I would rather more experience. I've been saying for a while, I'd rather more experienced and proven players to some of them youth.
But then you can't go
But
for
Cunha
Turkey.
Cunha is a proven player.
Cunha is but I don't think
2.5 years of Premier League
I don't think
experience.
he's the right player is the thing.
So the state that Manchester United is in at the minute is, you see my priorities, right? I would have loved I feel like he's transformational. You bring in Eze and Kudus, transformational. Your tens are just
Kudus
made
fantastic.
alongside Ahmad doing it. Like, it's just an abundance of creativity, abundance of goals as well between them. But I'm in a sitting here thinking, look, you've got Saudi offering 100 million. Like, he's not coming to Manchester United. You've got all of these guys like Eze that is probably going to cost upwards of 70 million. They're not.
Eze's 68 million release clause.
68 million release clause. He's not coming to Manchester United. We've got a player that is many teams want, that wants us and says, I don't even care about Champions League. I just want to play for you guys. Manchester United is in a position where we're looking at it thinking, he ticks the profile of physicality and strength, and you don't think he's physical?
No, not that physical. I don't think he doesn't fit the profile we need. I think he's a very physical player. I think Cunha's a really good player, don't get me wrong. I just think that he belongs in a very niche role, and I'd prefer we move away from signing those kind of players.
In case something happens with Amarim and then we're left with...
Yeah, exactly. Or if Amarim decides to adapt his system slightly and suddenly, we've seen this so many times over the years where we buy these players specifically for managers. We're like, this player fits a very specific role, and then the manager goes, something happens, and suddenly that player is useless.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, get him out.
Do you not think Cunha can play? Because Cunha can play up front as well as... Don't you think he can play
I think he can play in different positions, but the actual function of what he's doing in those positions is the same thing. So where he plays as a striker or he plays as a 10, whatever, he's performing the same fundamental role.
I think he could, I think he can work in a more advanced, the double pivot. I think Cunha could work as the advanced person. He's good at carrying the ball.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting opinion.
I think he could potentially work as an
I don't think that's a good idea.
I don't think
he's
it's a
not
good
Bruno
idea.
Fernandes.
I think
what,
even
you got a pivot of
I think
Cunha
he
and Casemiro.
I think
That
he
guy
could
needs to
do-
be next to the goal.
Even
I think
Bruno
Don't put him on the
Fernandes.
halfway line.
I think he'll do a Scott McTominay. I think he could do a Scott McTominay type role for Manchester United later on down the
Scott
line.
McTominay was not playing as an advanced pivot player, bro. I think he was playing as a 10.
Yeah,
But can I just say
McTominay
also, even Bruno Fernandes has had to adapt and evolve his game quite a lot to then fit in this pivot role. And I think playing with 3 centre-backs instead of 2 behind you does make it a bit easier, but he's adapted quite a bit.
But I think Bruno's currently going through the natural progression of a creative midfielder. Over time, creative midfielders tend to drop a bit deeper as their careers go on. That just happens.
Can I ask, actually, interesting one, just side note, but I've read something the other day about Pirlo, how there used to be games where he had a injury on his right foot, so he'd go into the game and he just wouldn't use his right foot, he'd just use his left foot, and this is a right-footed player, and he'd go through and be completely fine. I just thought that was how good of a footballer do you have to be able to do that? Of
course.
As good as Bruno Fernandes.
That's insane.
No, I just want to go back to the point that you talked about Cunha and the leadership and everything. I don't necessarily think Cunha needs to be a leader. He just needs to be a player who makes us immediately better, which I think he does. And I think I'm going to give him more credit than I think you are, which is just a difference of personal opinion. I think that he is a more flexible player than you're giving him credit for, because you have to be a flexible type of player to be able to play and sustain and be good in a lower team, in a team like Wolves, for example, rather than a team at the top. You can afford to be a specialist player and just be elite at the things you are elite at. But I think to prove yourself in squads and teams that are fighting relegation, that are playing as inferior teams every week, you have to be a flexible, multi-talented kind of more I don't want to say Swiss Army knife player, but like player with more about you than just a very specific thing. And I think Cunha does really well
Weirdly,
in that 10
I
role.
almost think it's the other way around. I feel like at the top clubs, you need to have more in your arsenal to be able to perform all these different functions.
I think if you're more a defending-minded player, I agree with that. But I think like the best forwards in the world aren't, unless you're Messi, unless you're Ronaldo, right? A lot like, for example, I know, let's say Lewandowski, for example, is just such an amazing elite goal scorer. He has a lot more to his game. Yes, someone like Erling Haaland, they have their absolutely elite traits, which make them the players that the big teams want. But I wouldn't necessarily say like Erling Haaland's playmaking is incredible. I feel like Cunha is a more well-rounded player than you're giving him credit for. But it's one of the things we'll find out.
I think he's a rounded player, but I feel like he's a rounded player that thrives in a particular role that gets where he's the main man of a team, like, if you know what I mean. So, I always use the example of Jack Grealish at Aston Villa. Not that they're the same player, but it's that same principle of that is very much his team. He is the guy.
Yeah, but he also comes in as probably, bar maybe Ahmad, our best forward.
I think Ahmad's better, to be fair, but then...
Yeah, that's a bar, but I mean in the way of like, it's not like Cunha's coming into a team stacked with talent. He's coming in and he's probably going to be the most talented player.
There's going to be a lot of pressure on Cunha.
I think there's also a lot of like upcoming talent in the team as well, where it's players that are not it right now, but they, in like a year or two, will be much like kind of better players than they are now. And then my question is, at that point, all right, so are we willing to pay 63 million for 1 or 2 years of Cunha?
No, it won't be.
But you're saying that as if we're going to sell him when he's 27.
But then
why can't he just be part of a very good attack?
Because I don't think that's how I think he is the attack, and that's where he's the best. I don't think he's a player who's going to be a part of an attack. Like Ahmad, I see his qualities. Okay, this guy can be a part of a great attack. Cunha, I see him as a player where he is the attack in a team. Like he is the guy who the entire attack runs through.
Yeah, I suppose I guess that's just one of the things that, let's say, Cunha joins Old Trafford, that we're just going to have to find out. We can debate it forever, but realistically we won't know, because right now, I think Cunha comes in and makes us immediately a much more threatening attack.
And that's where we're at.
And in a few years' time, if it's not working out anymore, oh well, or maybe hopefully he ends up still being good.
Yeah. I think we need.
But I do get your point, Yusuf. I do understand that.
We need these experience. We need these maturity, because at the minute I'm worried that we're signing too many players that are too young. Where, like we mentioned earlier, there's no time. They're not given the patience. You've seen it with Rasmus. We would have saw it with Obi. We would have saw it with Aiden Heaven. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If he was still playing, we would have been saying, "Oh my Lord, this guy's now got injured. What are we going to do for Atletico Bilbao?" Or we would have been in a situation saying, if Obi was registered, "Oh my God, Obi now is he can't play because of X, Y, and Z. Our chances are finished." We have been depending on Garnacho outside of Bruno Fernandes for the last 2-3 years.
And that's part of why Garnacho has reached the point he's at, where a lot of people now have turned on him.
And I don't want it to be a situation where we keep looking at these young kids, whether it's Turkey or whether it's anyone, piling on the pressure on. These guys are actually really good signers. Like, mainly it started happening with him. And he got injured and he came out of the firing line a bit, and then we've cooled down now and we've looked at Ugarte's taken a bit of the pressure off. He's been sort of like a mainstay in the midfield. Casemiro's come back in. It's taken the pressure off a bit, but we can't afford to keep bringing in these youngsters, piling on the pressure on them, and then...
Well, we'll see. I think that I was quite a big fan of Kenan Yildiz. I think the links of that have fizzled out. The reason him and Cherki, I think, are kind of they're exceptions to my rule about signing young players. One of the reasons I think Cherki is an exception, he's been through that arc of like where he's had those struggles and stuff. Like obviously he made his Lyon debut at 16. Like he had to grow into a man very early. There were a lot of struggles, a lot of concerns and points. He's kind of grown past that, and now where Lyon have been in a really difficult situation, he's stepped up quite a lot, and he's clearly just. I think also for the level of talent that Cherki has,
great,
is not normal whatsoever.
He's so good.
This guy used to like be a part Lyon fan. Like obviously he used to watch.
Well, I watched a lot of Lyon when he was coming through, and this guy was just Benzema, man. He genuinely, so Lyon used to play. I can't remember who it was under. They used to play a 4-2-2-2, and Cherki would play as the right-sided striker. but he would kind of, it was like Lacazette would play and then Cherki would play a little bit deeper and he was incredible.
I think even
he
like
was
at Old
stunning.
Trafford, when Leon went down to
He was like
10
17
men,
at the time as well.
Cherki went up, like he went up front for a bit, and he was just that outlet out of pressure. They'd win the ball, they'd get up to him, and he'd just like bring it down, get him up the pitch. Like he just, I personally think for the quality he has, and also for the character arc he's been through at Lyon, like so far, where he's had that pressure early, he's overcome it, and really stepped up.
He's been a first-team player at Lyon for 5-6 years now.
He's someone who I think I'd make an exception for him in that youth category. But in general, I'm with you. Like I do want some more experience in this team, and I have said this a long time now. But
Yeah, so we've had one comment from VK, member for 34 months on United View, which is a long time. We can only buy what we can afford, ! EPL proven is important, but Delap replacing Hojlund is doomed to fail without another experienced striker to rotate. I get the point, and I agree, despite everything I've just said, I do agree that we should buy an experienced forward, an experienced striker. I do think, which is why, I've been banging on about Chris Wood for fucking ages. But I think you say to replace Hojlund. I don't necessarily think Hojlund's going to go this summer unless he was to push for it, right?
I don't think the club are actually looking to.
And I don't think the club are actively looking to get rid of Hojlund. Financially, it's a stupid decision, and it's also I do think a bit obviously not many people will agree with me, but like you said, I still think it's a bit of a waste. He's still a good striker.
I would like
hopefully
him to
in
go
the
alone,
future.
I would love him to get
It would
along.
be great if Hojlund did well.
I personally think Amorim really rates him. Some of Amorim's like comments about Hojlund and stuff indicate he does actually rate him quite a lot. If you look at what Amorim has said about him, a lot of what he said.
Amorim's just saying, I really wish he could improve. I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to get him better. Like he clearly sees something there.
Yeah.
But
one thing I do think, I'm increasingly thinking that if Hojlund and Delap were to rotate, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But I do want an experienced player. I'll say again, another week of me saying this. Danny Welbeck back at Old Trafford would make movies.
Over Mateta.
Mateta would be great as well. Bring Danny Welbeck back.
I think we're gonna get I think United are going to explore that. I'm confident in saying that I think United will explore bringing in a more experienced striker, just not right now because our priorities are on the players.
I think that as well.
Yeah, this is what I think.
I just don't know if it happened this window.
I think United fans are taking people saying Delap's our number one choice for striker as Delap's going to be our only striker.
Yeah.
No, that never happens in the window.
Next year,
right?
you're probably getting. But I don't know if it's going to happen this window.
But the thing is that I don't think we're going to sign Delap and go, right, striker, done. That's not going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen at this club. These guys at the top of the club, they're smart people, man. They know much more than you. They know much more than me. They know much more than both. They know more than all of us combined. Jason Wilcox has shown himself, I think, to be a very, very good technical director. Omar Barada, I think, has done well. And Vivel, I think, has obviously he's got a bit of a love for the Bundesliga. But Vivel's shown himself over the years when he's been with Red Bull and stuff to be a very good head of recruitment. He's now our head of recruitment. I just feel like people are looking at the Delap news and they're going, why are we only signing Delap? No one has said Delap is our only striker signing. Not one single report out there has said Delap is the only striker we're signing this summer.
My only thing to this is there, just like Delap could be gone, right? Because there's clubs that want him, like Chelsea, whatever. It's the same way how Osimhen and Gyökeres could be gone and you don't have a chance of signing them.
But I think what we're doing is that the more expensive whatever striker is going to be Delap in terms of value for money. And then there are other strikers out there, like so you mentioned like Welbeck. There is, I don't know how much Chris Wood would cost, but then there's like Patrick Schick in the Bundesliga, as I mentioned before.
Of the age profile, right?
But these players would be 15, 20 million pound strikers who we could potentially fund once we actually figure out how much money we have. Because we're doing the Delap and the Cunha deal without knowing how much money we're going to have this summer. But the club have looked at them both and gone, we kind of need them no matter how much money we have. So that's why they're going for them now. We're then going to see how much if we get Champions League football, which is an 85 million guaranteed revenue over the next year, we're going to see how much Rashford goes for, how much Anthony goes for, if the Sancho sale goes through, if people buy Malacia, right, and then we're going to work out how much extra money we have, because Rashford, right, the rest of his contract is worth 56 million quid. in the final 3 years of his contract. Rashford goes, that's £40 million that United get, plus another 56 million they don't need to put out in wages, plus Lindelof, plus Eriksen, plus getting rid of Anthony and all these players. I think United simply getting the 2 players they know they need to get right now, then they're going to sit there, wait to see how much money we have left, then go and sign more players. And the reason we don't know who those other players are going to be is because United can't focus on it yet.
I like the strategy, I just don't know if they're the right players.
And I don't know if we're going to go for players above the age of 25, 26. And that's the thing. So a lot of these forwards that we're talking about, like Sheik or Welbeck, that's kind of
maybe not. But I feel like people are panicking that we haven't been linked to these strikers yet. But there's a reason for that. And I think we will later on in the window, right? Once the season, because the transfer window doesn't open for another 5 weeks, right? The club's there's still 5 weeks left before the transfer window even opens, and then there's 3 months before it closes again.
I like the approach as well about getting your forwards and then also doing yourself as opposed to waiting.
I think that's exactly how the club are doing it, and I really think that it's the right way to do it because we might generate 150 million quid in sales this summer.
It means that they're pretty confident that they're going to get some money from their players that they.
And I like it, and so I think with United fans, I really think they need to just take a beat. I'm looking at a lot of comments here, and they're all going a bit mental about the whole Osimhen Delap thing. But that's what, from the feeling of just, that's what I think is going to happen. From all the reports, reading everything, looking everything, that's how I think this summer's going to go.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Having signed, we just signed Cunha and Delap with them for like the team members that we already got, Ahmad, etc. Garnacho, say he stays. Where do you see Manchester United finishing next season?
What if we only sign them? I have no idea.
Not 10th at most.
Yeah, but I also don't think they're going to be our only signings.
Yeah, they're not going to be our only signings. I highly doubt it.
Because
from a forward perspective, sorry.
From
we can deal with.
What, as in like how good that front line is?
It really depends on where the rest of the team, what the rest of the signings are, to be honest.
I think that is assuming, let's say we don't sell any forwards and we sign those 2, I think that is a forward line capable of scoring enough goals to get us in a top 4 race. But if we actually end up in that race or not depends on the rest. Do we sign another midfielder to be able to help cover the Casemiro stuff? Are our centre-backs going to stay fit? Are we going to sign another right wing-back to help cover the load with Dalot? Is Luke Shaw going to come back and help? And Martinez back in January? I think there's too many variables right now, but I think the group of forwards there, I think would be enough to put us into a top 4 race.
It's interesting. It's going to be
almost
interesting.
More than anything because we got Ahmad back.
Yeah.
That means more than any of those signings.
I'm also interested to see if Manchester United can close down those 10 positions in a season. I know people are saying it could just be a blip, but I don't know. I just would love to see if we can actually close down, be in that top 4 race to the end of the season and close down 10 positions.
Right now, our squad is still a fully fit squad. Let's say we signed nobody and sold nobody and we had everyone fit. We're not going to finish 17th again, 14th, 15th again, right? I think we'd be pushing for at least the Europa League spots with the squad we have, assuming everyone's fit. It
depends also who makes a jump, because you could have young players like Mainu,
that's also very true. I think we're currently massively under. Our expected points this season is now higher than the whole of last season, right? I think we're massively underperforming because of the injuries and everything. And I'm positive that this squad is better than they're showing. I think a lot of people don't agree with me, but I think already, I think having our fit players and Amram having a pre-season jumps us 6-7 spots in the league as it is. And I think then adding signings, 5-6 signings, then can jump us up to where I've said fighting for kind of 5th, 6th, 4th, maybe not 3rd, but like in the mix around those immediately, which is a massive piece of progression.
Yeah.
And I think it's good. Because I think it's not us about jumping 10 spaces because we've gone further down than we actually are worth, I think. Just one man's opinion. But I do want to move on now, after we've done 48 minutes on this so far, onto the Bournemouth game and obviously the Bilbao game coming up. So we've spoken about transfers for way too long, and we're going to be doing that the whole summer. The Bournemouth game is coming up, and Bournemouth is a hard test, man. That's a cruel game, Bournemouth away. And also United, I think, historically, I remember like Josh King just absolutely ripping us to pieces various amount of times since we've been there. Bournemouth have beaten us 3-0 back-to-back at Old Trafford in the last 2 seasons. Can't remember what the result was last time we went to.
2-2.
Was it 2-2? Who scored?
Do you remember, I think Solanke scored 2. Oh, I know Solanke scored one. I know Fernandes scored two. Do you remember the like where Kumbuala, unfortunately, like the poor bloke just got absolutely done by.
Oh
Solanke?
yeah. I remember this now. Yeah, but obviously I'm thinking about this game completely in terms of the semi-final in Bilbao midweek. The question I'm going to ask. So I've got Chido Obi up there. I've got Mason Mount up here as well. I'm just going to ask how second-rate starting 11 should Amram be going for this game? Bearing in mind, we've not had a midweek game this week. So there's the argument, so most of our players have had pretty much a full week's rest, right? And also players like Bruno Dallo didn't start on the weekend, that just gone again when we played Wolves. Should Amram actually still be looking to bench a load of these players, or should he be looking to start them and then give them 50-60?
Yeah, 50-60. I think still go with a strongish 11. One thing, I want to see Tyler Fredrickson play again.
Good player, isn't
he? He was incredible.
The youth
honestly,
is looking good.
Man. But yeah, I want to see some youth play. I don't think he'll start Chido Obi yet.
Womp womp.
I don't think he'll start Chido Obi yet. I think maybe at Brentford away, if depending on how things are for Bilbao's second leg. But
why do you think that?
It really depends on how the first leg in Bilbao goes. But because bear in mind, Chido can't play in the Europa League, so Hojlund is his only striker in the Europa League. So he might think, right, I need him fresh for the Europa League. So, but I still don't know if he'll throw Chido in the deep end yet. I think for the rest of the season, maybe like by the final games, he might.
I don't think the Premier League is the deep end.
No, but like in terms of like level, it's a big thing for it. I mean, Chido's had some positive cameos.
Throwing him in against Bournemouth away, yeah.
No,
so
it is a
why
big
do you feel
step
like
up for him.
we did it for people like Aiden and
because it's easier to do that for defenders.
And also because Licha had this
it's always easier to play a young player in defence than attack. I've always thought that. For example, like Amas doing well. If Amas was a number 10, he wouldn't have made back-to-back Premier League starts because he's a wing back. It's easier to play one young player, two young players in defence than it is playing two of our front three as teenagers.
Amas impressed me as well.
Amas is a great player. That boy is just Luke Shaw all over again.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in the injury way, but in terms of
I'll tell you
like,
that.
he can put in a cross, he can put in a tackle.
I love the fact that he just loves the cross, hit it first time, whatever. He just, put it in the
like that hesitancy is that Dorgu's got that hesitancy. Amas hasn't got it.
Yeah.
Just whip it in. It's kind of like it's the fearlessness thing that all young players have. But I can agree with seeing Hojlund starting. I think Chido could get his first start when we play Brentford in midweek. Sorry, Brentford next weekend. Yeah. Because that's in between the two Bilbao games. But that Bilbao game's it's starting to scare me a bit.
I'll be missing the start of the game. It should be my final few kilometres of the London Marathon. Hopefully.
When's the game? Is it not?
It's 2 p.m. kickoff on Sunday.
Oh, the Brentford game.
Yeah,
Sorry, the Bournemouth game. I was talking about the Bilbao game. I was like, when's the London Marathon?
No, London Marathon Sunday. So I should be kind of, if my projected time is kind of correct, I should be kind of finishing up as we start the game. So 15, 20 minutes in, hopefully, but we'll see.
Straight on Sky Go. Yeah. But no, I think, I know I've been saying this 6 weeks. I want to see Mason Mount start a game of football before I die. Because he just hasn't. I want to see Mason Mount. I don't think he'll start in Bilbao. Well, he definitely won't start in Bilbao, I don't think so. But I want to see Mason Mount start 60 minutes. Wouldn't mind seeing, not Luke Shaw starting, but, I want to see Luke Shaw getting 30. I'd like to see Fredrickson again. It'd be nice. It's so weird, man, because I mentioned to you before, I went to uni with his brother, Fredrickson. I went for Aaron Fredrickson, his older brother. I was at uni with him, which is weird to see now, writing about Fredrickson, because it's spelt not how you normally spell Fredrickson. I'm writing and I'm typing it. I'm I know that surname because I was in the same halls as this guy. The number of flat passes, I was chilling with him, playing beer pong and everything with it. It's weird, but. No, I want to see Casemiro rested. I'd like Ugarte start. I think Bruno should start. I think Dallo should start. Yeah. Although Dallo wasn't in training yesterday.
I think the thing as well that whilst we want players rested, you don't want to knock rhythm too much.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's I think Amram said before that sometimes the best way to deal with someone like Bruno is just to keep playing him, just keep him in the rhythm. Because Bruno didn't start. He played 15 minutes against Wolves or something. I don't think he played that long at all. And Bruno Fernandes, we know, can play 1 billion minutes of football every year. So I think play Bruno, start Bruno, get him in the rhythm, and I think set up as close as you can to how you want to set up against Bilbao.
Yeah.
and then play some of your core players.
It
But
does
I'd say-
help that Antonio Raula is quite like an aggressive pressing manager, and I know Ernesto Valverde has had that mindset previously as well, being like a guy who likes
Yeah,
to
I think
press.
you literally use this as a not a warm up, but as in like a pre. So for example, let's say we go 1-0, 2-0 down against Bournemouth, right? Let's say in the first half, whatever, you might tweak your tactics, try and win the game second half. No, literally 90 minutes of play as close as possible to how you want to play against. Because I don't give a crap about this result. We can lose 4-0.
Yeah.
I do not care.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we win or we draw, sweet, fantastic. I always like that. That does better for me because it means I got more good stuff to write about, and you're happy because your team hasn't lost. But could not give less of a crap about this game.
Yeah.
In terms of the final score.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bilbao's the season.
I think the first team should get a 60, 70-minute run out, and then we take off some of the core players. We take off the Rasmus Hojlund because he's our only striker. We take off Bruno. We take off key central defenders as well. I just think like we definitely need to get them minutes behind their legs because it's gonna be high intensity against Bilbao. Man, I'm look. That Williams, I don't know if there's any sign of him coming back into the fold or being fit for us,
I think he'll be fit.
which is worrying. I saw his brother get a goal the other day.
Mazraoui will lock him up though, I can't lie.
You reckon?
Mazraoui will lock him up easy. My boy Mazraoui is going to lock him up.
Oh,
Your father.
gosh.
But yeah, it's weird not caring about the league. It's a bit of a weird feeling. But I don't.
It's over. I mean, I saw rival fans
pre-season,
and
bro.
people up.
Pre-match.
People like the Wolves game didn't. It was just like, meh.
Yeah. Would you guys start, this is probably the most contentious one, would you start Harry Maguire against Bournemouth?
I'd start him, but I wouldn't give him like ages. Again, like 50, 60-minute run out. Just get some minutes in the legs.
What about, so you start Harry Maguire and take him off at half-time and play Fredrickson? Because I'd like Yoro to start.
something like
Yeah.
Like I'd like start Yoro, because I think Yoro is also a player who really benefits from rhythm. Because he's 19, he's not experienced, he can't just like snap back straight into it. Obviously, he didn't start against Wolves after playing like 115 whatever minutes it was against Lyon. I think start Yoro, start Maguire and Mazraoui. Let Yoro have his 60, 70 minutes. Obviously, hope he doesn't get injured. And then take Maguire for like half time. Bring Fredrickson on, put Yoro in the middle centre back or something. I don't know. I have
I'm
no
really
idea.
hoping that Ahmad surprises us as well. Like we get a surprise.
I think
from
Ahmad will be
Delap
back
or
for the
Ahmad.
second leg.
I'm
I'm praying.
pray.
I'm praying that he's able to be on the bench for the second leg.
I'm hoping.
Just something like that.
If
Give us
we're,
the
if we're
or
like deadlocked and he comes off the bench and wins it.
exactly.
You know
man.
that would-
Exactly,
I'd
man.
scrape my leg again on the
That
Old
would be
Trafford
the
seats.
difference. That would be the difference. I believe that will give us a boost of winning. That will give me confidence. Just having Ahmad available, having someone
Yeah.
like Delap available. Those two will be the massive boost for the team morale.
I've got no idea what's up with Delap, man.
I know.
I think because he still wasn't in training. Amram said a few weeks ago, he should be back in a few weeks, and that's basically now.
Yeah.
But he wasn't in training on Wednesday.
And I didn't get
No one was, but
impression-
no one was back on Wednesday.
Hopefully he'll be back for like Bilbao or maybe Brentford.
Yeah, the Bilbao game. I know because we'll stream again. We'll go next Thursday before the match, hopefully. But just to speak about it quickly now, are you guys worried or just nervous?
I'm confident.
Really?
I'm up for it. I can't lie.
Is that because you
this
know
is-
Bilbao?
I don't really know them that much, but I just like this is our season now, and I feel like everyone understands it. So I feel like this. I just got a good feeling. I also feel like after that Lyon comeback, when you have a game like that, you can't not go on and win the entire tournament.
I mean, you very much can. But do you mean in the way of like you trust the players to be able to deliver
I feel like
when they know
I've
they
said
need
a lot
to?
about this team. It's not a good quality necessarily, but they can turn up for the big games, and I think this really matters now.
I'm worried because you don't go up 2 goals ahead with Lyon and then expect that to happen.
That's the second leg, though. I'm just talking about the game away in Bilbao. The second leg, I don't, because I'm not going to think about the second leg until I know the first leg score, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but even with the first leg, right, I'm like, I don't want Manchester United to repeat a scenario like that again, even though it brings memories and it's the best
Because
feeling on earth.
the odds of coming back again is slim.
To
Yeah,
do
that
that
makes
you
sense.
just don't do that all the time, and there's reasons why these things are like one-offs. I don't want us up against better opposition, better quality. Williams.
I mean,
has
as
got a point to prove.
Skiliano's commented here, I'm proper nervous for the Bilbao tie. I think English football fans are massively underestimating them. They have the best defensive record in La Liga and we can't score.
Look, this is what
They're a good team.
They haven't dealt with Harry Maguire.
They're a good team. I just back us. No disrespect to them.
I'm nervous and excited, but not worried about the first leg. Like I'm not like worried we're going to get slapped up 4-0 or anything. Like I'm excited. Like my jitteriness for the game comes out of excitement for a semi-final, not nervousness that we might get slapped. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas when we went and we played Sociedad, who admittedly I know were much worse, because it's a Spanish opposition, I was a bit worried that we actually might just get slapped. But we didn't, we drew 1-1, but we had a capitulation against them. We scored, went 1-0 up, and then after 70 minutes, we did collapse a bit against Sociedad. And Atletico Bilbao Athletic Club are much better. But we have been streaming for it's just hit an hour. So I'm going to end it there, but it's been an absolute pleasure to have both of you on as always. I think we had a good debate this week. We had a good debate, some differing opinions, some similar opinions. The chat's been lively, it's been lovely. Thank you to so much everyone who's been watching, giving your opinions, telling us about how wrong we are. Always appreciate that. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, check out my socials, all the socials, everything in the description below, and I'll see you next Thursday.